Mass immigration and illegal immigration is turning Britain into a powder keg.
Picture this. You have spent 20 years building a family business, surviving recessions, a global pandemic, and the ever-rising cost of a pint of milk, only to find your high street has turned into the Wild West, and not the fun kind with cowboy hats. Imagine standing behind your counter in Manchester or Birmingham, watching the door swing open, not for a loyal customer, but for the same gang that cleared your shelves last Tuesday. You call the police, they do their job and make an arrest. But by the time you have mopped the floor, the culprits are back on the street, smirking at your CCTV cameras because the Home Office apparently treats deportation orders like suggested reading, rather than the law of the land. This is not a scene from a dystopian thriller. It is the reality of British retail in 2026. From the rainy pavements of Newcastle to the bustling markets of Cardiff, the backbone of our economy, the small shop owner is hitting the breaking point. Windows are being boarded up, shutters are staying down, and for the first time in decades, the shopkeepers are not just calling the police, they are taking to the streets to demand that Keir Starmer finally chooses between protecting British livelihoods or coddling criminal gangs. Quick favour, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. If you were in Manchester this past Tuesday morning, you might have thought a revolution was brewing, and in a way you would be right. Outside the town hall, 200 shop owners gathered, not with professional activists or political firebrands, but with signs that screamed a simple, desperate message: deport migrant criminals, protect British business. These are the people who keep our communities running, the news agents who know your name, the corner store owners who stay open until 11 p.m, and the family grocers who have seen 3 generations of customers. They are not out there for fun. They are out there because they are being bled dry by systematic failure. Take the case of one local grocery store owner in the heart of Manchester. She has been here 8 times this year, not once, not twice, 8 times. Each time it is the same choreographed nightmare. A gang walks in, grabs the high-value items, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever they can carry, and walks out with the nonchalance of someone browsing a library. The police have been brilliant. They have caught the suspects, they have charged them, and the evidence is recorded in high-definition glory. But here is where the system breaks. The courts release them almost immediately. Deportation orders issued years ago are sitting in a filing cabinet, gathering dust while these gangs continue their tour of the high street. She has lost over £11,000 this year alone. Her insurance company has essentially told her thanks but no thanks and refused further coverage. For her, the choice is simple. Either Starmer acts or she shuts the doors after 12 years of service. I pay my taxes, I employ local people, and yet the government protects the people robbing me, she told the crowds. It is a sentiment echoing across the northwest.
What did Keir Starmer say to the British population that he managed to con 10 weeks ago? He said, we're going after the gangs, we're going to get a border czar, we're going to stop this. He hasn't done bugger all. There isn't a commander, there isn't a border force commander. That job hasn't been filled. More and more migrants are coming every single day, because the truth is that Labour ain't got a plan. And I go back to it again and again. I spoke to Richard the other day. The Tories had a plan, nobody liked it. The Labour Party simply won power by criticising a defunct government that the public had stopped listening to. I swear to God, I look at this and I think, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I like what you said. How embarrassed are we? How embarrassed are we that our pensioners are freezing and that illegal migrants that sat in four-star hotels are now being moved to allow convicted prisoners? Because, hey, that'll cure places in prison. Build more... Do you know what? I'm so with Blexi on this. Build more prisons and make them...
While Manchester was making its voice heard, Birmingham was not far behind. Wednesday afternoon saw over 100 shop owners marching through the city centre, their shutters down and their businesses silent for the day. In the West Midlands, the crisis has taken a darker turn. We are not just talking about shoplifting anymore. We are talking about blatant, violent robbery. One convenience store owner recounted a terrifying incident where a knife was pulled on his 19-year-old employee for a measly £300 in the till. The suspects? Albanian asylum seekers whose claims were rejected 3 years ago. 3 years? They should have been on a plane years ago, yet they are still in Birmingham, still hitting the same shops, and still mocking the very idea of British justice. It is like trying to empty the ocean with a sieve. The police catch them, the Home Office releases them, and the shop owner is left to pay the crime tax. Relatable analogy time. Imagine if you kept catching a fox in your chicken coop, but every time you handed it over to the ranger, they drove it 2 miles down the road and let it go. Eventually, you are going to run out of chickens. That is exactly how Birmingham shopkeepers feel about Keir Starmer right now. Now, let us move to the capital, where the scale of the problem is enough to make your eyes water. Outside the Home Office in London, over 200 shop owners from every corner of the city gathered in a show of unity. In London, criminal gangs have turned shoplifting into a professional sport. We are seeing reports of a single gang hitting 30 different shops in 6 months. They are on CCTV, their faces are known, and they have been identified by the police, yet they remain at large because of the infamous Article 8 of the Human Rights Act. In STARMER'S Britain, the right to a private and family life has become the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card for foreign nationals. A migrant criminal can rob a newsagent, threaten a pensioner, and clear out a pharmacy, but the moment a deportation order is signed, a lawyer pops up to claim removal would be disproportionate. The London shop owners are done with the excuses. They are demanding a meeting with the Home Secretary and immediate policy changes. They are not asking for much, just that if you come to this country and break our laws, you lose the privilege of staying here. It is common sense, yet in Westminster, it seems to be a revolutionary concept. This is not just a big city problem, it is a nationwide epidemic. In Leeds and Newcastle, the stories are identical. One Leeds shop owner told reporters he had been robbed 6 times this year by the same group. He knows their names, the police know their names, yet the deportation orders remain unenforced. In Cardiff, a woman who has run her corner shop for 2 decades described how gangs walk in like they own the place. It is a complete breakdown of the social contract. In Newcastle, the protest was small but fierce. Shopkeepers are sharing strategies on WhatsApp, coordinating their own security, and even considering blacklisting certain areas because the police response is so hamstrung by red tape. The pattern is clear, a systematic failure of the Home Office to act on known criminals. It is as if the government has hung a welcome sign on our shop doors for every international criminal gang looking for an easy target. The communities are not just demanding deportations, they are demanding their streets back. When we talk about these robberies, the media often focuses on the value of the stolen goods. Oh, it was just some cigarettes, they say. But the real cost is the destruction of the British middle class. One woman in Birmingham reported £7,000 in stolen stock this year, but her security costs have tripled and her revenue is down 40% because customers are too scared to walk through the door.
I'm absolutely determined that we're going to stop people crossing the channel in small boats.
Who scares you? Do the UK government scare you?
We're introducing a sanctions regime which is very similar to the powers we've used against terrorists.
A man in London is facing bankruptcy because he can no longer get insurance. One more robbery and 20 years of hard work vanishes. Then there is the human cost. Staff are quitting because they are tired of being threatened. Business owners are spending their evenings watching CCTV feeds instead of playing with their children. This is the crime tax that Keir Starmer is allowing these gangs to levy on the British public. The deafening silence from Downing Street is essentially a green light for the criminals. Let us dive into the why of this crisis. Why is it so hard to deport someone who has been caught on camera robbing a shop? The answer lies in the tangled web of human rights law that Keir Starmer, a former human rights lawyer himself, seems loath to touch. Under current interpretations, family life can be defined so broadly that almost anyone can claim it. It is a legal farce. We have cases where individuals with dozens of convictions for theft and assault are still walking our streets because they might have a right to family life here. Meanwhile, the British public has a right to peaceful enjoyment of their possessions, but you don't hear much about that in the courts. The shop owners are realising that the system is weighted against them. It is a two-tier system where the rights of the perpetrator are polished and protected, while the rights of the victim are ignored. If Starmer thinks he can just wait for these protests to blow over, he has seriously miscalculated the public mood. Recent polling suggests that 68% of the British public supports the shop owners' demands for immediate deportation. People understand that these are not giant, faceless corporations. These are our neighbours. Whether it is the Pakistani family running the local newsagent, the elderly couple with the convenience store, or the single mum trying to make ends meet, these are the people who make Britain work. The public sees the unfairness of it all. They see the high street crisis not as an economic inevitability, but as a political choice. Every time a shop closes its doors because it can't afford the crime, a little bit of the community dies with it. The protests are not stopping. In Manchester, they are organising weekly demonstrations. In Birmingham, the marches are getting larger. But the real threat to Starmer's government is the proposed National Day of Action. Imagine if every independent shop in Britain closed their doors for 24 hours in protest. It would be a visual representation of what happens when the government ignores its citizens. A Britain without its small shops is a Britain that has lost its soul. The shop owners are coordinating, sharing strategies and building a movement that is professional, focused and utterly relentless. They are even talking about legal action, suing the government for a failure to protect. If they can prove that the Home Office's refusal to deport known criminals has directly led to their losses, they could open a floodgate of compensation claims. What we are witnessing is the literal tearing of the social contract. We give up certain freedoms and pay our taxes in exchange for the state's protection. If a shopkeeper in Leeds is robbed 6 times by people the state knows should not be here, the state has breached that contract. The shop owners are not extremists. Labels the media loves to throw around the moment anyone complains about immigration policy. They are hard-working people of all backgrounds who just want to do their jobs without being punched or robbed. When you label a shopkeeper from a minority background as far-right because they want criminal gangs deported, you have officially lost the plot. The Starmer's crisis is a crisis of common sense, and the eruption we are seeing in our cities is the sound of people finally saying, enough is enough. Let's look at the numbers because they are staggering. Since 2024, thousands of foreign national offenders have remained in the UK despite having no legal right to be here. In early 2026, the Home Office admitted that their one-in, one-out scheme with France is failing to keep up with the volume of illegal arrivals, let alone clear the backlog of criminals already on our streets.
Yesterday, 27 illegal migrants were bussed into a British military barracks under the cover of darkness with a police escort. They're at Crowborough Barracks in Sussex, once the largest training site for army cadets in the southeast, now home to blokes who broke into Britain illegally. The locals don't want it, as these scenes show.
One shop owner in Cardiff told us that the man who robbed her was arrested with a deportation order in his pocket from 2022. Why was he still there? Because the legal industry that surrounds the asylum system is more efficient than the Home Office itself. We have created a system where it is easier to rob a shop in Manchester than it is to get a flight out of Heathrow for someone who has broken our laws. The Starmer crisis isn't just a lack of police, it's a lack of political will to finish the job once the police have done theirs. Every time a shop owner boards up their window, the community loses more than just a place to buy milk. They lose a pair of eyes on the street. They lose a familiar face. These shop owners are often the first to notice if an elderly neighbour hasn't been out for a few days, or if local kids are getting into trouble. By allowing migrant gangs to target these businesses with impunity, Starmer is effectively dismantling the social fabric of our towns. In Leeds, a whole street of shops has collectively decided to close at 4 p.m. because the gangs arrive like clockwork as soon as the sun goes down. The local council's response? More CCTV. But as we've seen, CCTV is just a high-definition way to record the government's failure. Unless those recordings lead to a plane ticket, they are worthless. The shop owners are demanding that the government stops treating retail crime as low-level and starts treating it as the national emergency it is. As the protests in Manchester, Birmingham, London, Leeds, Newcastle and Cardiff continue to grow, the question remains, what will it take for the government to listen? Will it take a total collapse of the high street? Will it take a tragedy that could have been avoided if a deportation order had been enforced? The shop owners are not waiting for an answer. They are creating their own. They are standing together across all 6 cities and beyond, demanding that the law be applied equally and that the safety of the British public be put first. Keir Starmer might be silent now, but the roar from the high street is only going to get louder. Thank you for watching.